Hey, my name is Nate, and I've been a product strategist helping some of the biggest tech companies like the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. And I want to take that expertise and experience and help small AEC tech companies thrive. But I'm only going to give myself 2 days to do this exercise. And in those 2 days, I'm going to dive into this company, analyze it, understand it, and then come up with 2 unique and creative strategies for how they can unlock additional revenue today. Why 2 strategies, you may ask? Well, 2 is better than 1. I also happen to have 2 corgis. If you would like me to take a look at your company and analyze it and find some creative opportunities, comment in the video below and I'll randomly select the next company for the next video. Generally speaking, I am looking at AEC Tech companies, but I'm happy to take a look at some others if that's helpful. But for this video, since this is the first of its series, I'm gonna go alphabetically. That means today we're gonna be starting with Autodesk. I know what you're thinking, Autodesk is not a small AEC tech company, but compared to the Googles and the Facebooks of the world, there is so much more potential for this company to grow. You're going to vote on which strategy you think is the best and items that I might have missed because, hey, I did this in 2 days and I'm putting my expertise and skills to the test. We'll see how it goes. I really don't know. It might epically fail, but let's take a look. All right, so let's dive in. How can Autodesk make more money today? So if we look at where the money is, let's just follow the money for just a second here. How much do they make and where is the money? They're at about $5 billion reoccurring revenue. That's on an annual basis. And what was surprising about this is when you look at the numbers, most of that money is actually coming from what they categorize as design revenue. And that's primarily from Revit and AutoCAD. Now, I won't go over the annual report. You can look this up and dive into all the details. It's super fascinating, but you'll look at here. So you have the total revenue. A better indicator here actually is the free cash flow. So that's really, what's the money that they're making after all the expenditures. When we look down here, this is what really surprised me, which was when we look at the categories of tools and where they're at in terms of revenue, we're looking at about $2.2 billion, which is primarily from Revit. They say Autodesk Build, but you can see down here, this is AutoCAD, AutoCAD Lite. Most of their money, you can see right here, $2 billion. That's in the year 2023. That is substantial. So when I'm thinking about, okay, how can I make this company more money and do so with a minimal amount of effort? One strategy would be to say, hey, we're going to go into a completely different area. In this case, I want to take what's working really well and just expand upon that, not do some kind of crazy thing or tool outside of what their core offering is. That's my overall approach to both of these strategies, and I'm curious if you think that is a good strategy or not. All right, strategy number 1 is titled BIM Managers. Make their lives easier by creating more centralized authoring tools. Let me explain. Once again, we are following the money. Where is the money? It's that design revenue, primarily Autodesk Revit. So who uses these design tools? It's going to be primarily architects. And a subset of those architects are going to be BIM managers. Now, we don't typically think of the BIM managers as the end users, but they are key. Let me explain why. So why BIM managers? Typically, they are billed as overhead and not directly billed towards projects. Does depend, I get it, but just generally speaking, that category can typically go into overhead. So it's a huge cost burden for architecture firms. They also influence decision-making when it comes to purchasing software. So that's key to remember as we move forward. And they already use Revit. They're already a user. It's just a matter of how can we unlock more opportunities for them and expand their tools. So maybe in the future, instead of needing 2 BIM managers, you just need 1. Who else could we target as a potential if we didn't do BIM managers? Well, another user could be owners. They don't currently use Revit, but that is a potential group to go after to expand new revenue potential. And the advantages there would be pretty high revenue potential there, and I think also an opportunity to target large accounts. Ultimately, though, I had to decide between targeting BIM managers or owners. I went with BIM managers. It's a high cost burden to architecture firms, programs, so this could just be a win-win situation for both parties. So let's dive into BIM managers. What are their core tasks and what are their pain points? What could we solve for here? So some of the things that BIM managers would do would be doing a BIM execution plan, project coordination, doing the standards, making the families, doing training and support. And in their just day-to-day activities, some of the pain points would really be could be around alignment, template management and deployment, software capability, and then also training and skill gaps. But for this exercise, I really wanted to target specifically the template management and just managing Revit families and all the things that go into what it takes to set up Revit file and get a project started off on the right foot. And so that would include some elements around the BIM execution plan, project coordination, and then those firm guidance and best practices. So at a high level, what this looks like is let's build out tool sets for BIM managers in 360 to deploy templates, firm settings, and data centrally. In other words, let's build out functionality to centralize tasks. This is here some existing diagrams of how Revit sort of deploys those different systems at different levels, but that's all within one project. There's no way to control this in a separate environment. You're always opening that one project and then you're diving into all these different parameters to like get and fine tune all these different settings. And it's a pretty big pain point. Comment below if you are a BIM manager of your major pain points. I would love to hear more about it. So the big idea here is let's leverage 360. What an amazing platform we have there. And then we can kind of think about it as a CMS for BIM managers or a CMS for an architecture firm. And basically you can deploy that via 360. So the typical workflow here is that, you have these singular projects and you have singular settings. You might have one template or two templates, but the idea here is to say, hey, let's make a central data model. And through that central data model, we can deploy those systems and standards, like even shared parameters. So I gave an example here is in a central data model, you could actually adjust a shared parameter across projects. And so this would be one way just to kind of streamline the process of maintaining all your settings, even your families, all within this one central data model, and then choose how you want to deploy that across different projects. Let's talk about the revenue unlocks. So if we say that there's 700,000 Revit users, say we can get an additional 100,000 of those existing 700 Revit users to use 360. We're now looking at $94 million per year, which is a lot of money. All right, strategy number 2 is titled Marketplace. It's for families. Now, I have no idea why this has not been done yet. I'm just absolutely baffled. Yes, there are online websites and all that kind of thing, but nothing managed centrally by Autodesk itself. So if you think about it, this strategy would be basically building out a SketchUp warehouse for Revit, but managed by Autodesk that can have manufacturers essentially have those integrated into the marketplace. And then you essentially just charge those manufacturers maybe a small fee for those to be hosted on the marketplace, or maybe you work out some other type of financial compensation there. But I think, manufacturers always love to get those specifications integrated into the products, integrated into those families. The idea here is let's just create exceptional Revit families and standards, incorporate material specifications and firm-wide material libraries. You would have your own firm-wide marketplace to a certain extent, and you can have those BIM managers assess and see what items would go into your firm-wide materials and specifications. So you would both have the global Autodesk warehouse as well as your own warehouse that you could reference your own materials and look at past projects and what you used in the past. I didn't know how to calculate the value unlock for this, although I just think it just makes a lot of sense to do this other than that. But if we're thinking about Material Bank is valued at $1 billion with a revenue of $72 million. Obviously, they have a different business model. They just send out samples to architecture firms. I could see, if this is what Material Bank is valued at, I could see, you can start to kind of put things together in terms of how much manufacturers are incentivized to say, hey, we want to be incorporated into your BIM model, into your specifications from the start of a project. Autodesk has a larger footprint, and although they would not be sending material samples, they would be providing direct funnel to architects and could order material samples through the marketplace. All right, so I don't know. I don't know what you think about these two strategies, and I hope I made those two clear, but which one do you think is the winning strategy? Is it the BIM manager strategy, or is it the marketplace strategy? Tell us why in the comments. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Okay, a quick bonus. You can see in the annual report what some of these executives are making. Just a fun thing to look at just what types of value that they bring to this company is pretty impressive. So Andrew's at about $1 million, Deborah is about 600, Stephen Blum is about 615. That's just their base salary. So yeah, it's pretty impressive when you see some of those numbers.